Hello and welcome. Here we are on my tune Posted, and that's what the drop's sounding like. But let's talk about what's in the project. It's another one with purely just 3 times OSC being used. In terms of synths, we're going to look at pattern 1 for a second, and we can see my usual layout of drums. Lots more drums on this one, and then if we look here, that's a sub bass. Okay, so we've got a few samples from a previous sound design session. And we've got some stuff going on there. And this 35 is something that I don't know what's going on. Okay. So it's just a really long onset swell. That's why I couldn't hear it. But this song is pretty heavy, pretty intense, and pretty groovy. This main synth I just whipped up with the old Reese technique. So we've got 2 saw waves here, offset by 16 cents in each direction, and then we've got an overtone frequency, harmonic frequency, being pushed with this sine wave. In terms of processing, we're doing a tiny bit of EQ. There's a vocodex in there, but it's not actually turned on. So I must automate that on later, it looks like. And then we've got a maxed out blood overdrive. We got filter for automation. We've got some limiting, and we've got some verb as well for automating as well, and some gross beat pattern going on. I think I used one of the scratch pattern presets. And that's just for some fills and interest to come in at some point. But yeah, the main riff kind of just plays through on MIDI. Let's see what that sounds like without some processing. So if we turn off the overdrive, yeah, it's really quiet. So that's what it sounds like without the overdrive, and then with it, it's crazy. And I guess the EQ here isn't actually pulling out the bass, but like it has a low end in there, but I guess I decided to have the sub bass handled with its own generator here, and that is literally just a sine wave, and then these are turned off. So it's just one singular sine wave, very clean. This is a technique that I'll do often when I'm not doing weird stuff like I explained in the other video. So this is acting as the top timbre. I'm really surprised that I didn't pull any bass out. I guess because it's so slammed with the distortion, it's not actually leaving that much low end intact. And not to mention, it's a saw wave saw wave Reese there, so it's not the most sub-bassy sounding thing, but it seems to have worked for me layering those two. Of course, there's sidechaining there. This is my kick channel. I always have it in this position, like the first fader on the mixer. And I've got a high pass filter that I can automate for creating a lighter version of the kick for build-ups and things. So if we go look at this build-up, that's what I've actually done there. So the kick is high passed, just a tad. So it doesn't have all the low end there, and that creates more impact when we actually get to the drop, and it can come in full force. And there's not heaps to talk about because it's like one bass patch. So two bass patches, but I think I mainly use just one, and then I'll even like change the. Okay, so I've automated the harmonic frequency. So there's these two that are holding down the Reese. They're at minus 24 semitones, and this top one is holding that harmonic. I think it's a 5. Let's see. So it's a 5th. That's the interval, and then basically what I can do is I can decide for this to come more dominant or less dominant by just reducing the volumes or increasing the volumes of these two that make up the Reese. So for example, if I bring down these Reese ones, there's more harmonic. If I bring them all the way down, it's only harmonic. And then if I turn them up, it'll just drown out that increasingly more and more until it's just the Reese. And I think that's pretty fun to automate because then you can have an evolving bass timbre that's changing over the course of the drop or the song. And I've actually done this in the not the most efficient way. The most efficient way would be to use oscillator 1 and 2 as your Reese. So have saw wave here, have this down minus 24, and then that's holding down the low end of the sound, and then using the third oscillator to create that overtone thing. I've done it this way. So this way I have to automate both of these knobs to come in and out. If you had it the other way where you had your Reese first and then the overtone in the third, you could just use the volume of the third oscillator, and that would influence things exactly the same, basically just controlling this volume instead of controlling these two volumes. So one or the other, they both achieve the same thing. I've done it in the less efficient way this time. There's no volume knob on your first frequency in 3x OSC, so I didn't plan ahead when I was creating this sound. I was messing around. I decided that I wanted this, like I arrived at this, and I didn't flip it around. And that's fine. I can just have 2 automation clips doing the exact same thing. That's easy enough. So that's what these two are. I've got bass, top, alt, oscillator 2, and bass, top, alt, oscillator 3. So it's just to remind me that as I bring these up and down, there'll be less or more of the Reese and less or more of the overtone frequency thing, creating that character. So you can see it starts here, then it gets progressively more Reese-y. So you can hear that harmonic going down. And there you can hear it's come a lot more into the foreground. let's talk about this section for a bit. Sub bass is holding it down. Then I've abandoned these synths that we were using in the first part of the drop. Second part, I wanted it to switch up, and it's gone from this fifth sound thing to a major third sounding thing. And I've achieved that through resampling myself. So this is a patch I made and bounced it into an audio stem, and now I just call on it. And you can see the word moody there because that's what it was inspired by, the great producer. Here is a sample that I just found in my sample library. It's not mine. Here's another one. And here's another one from a sound design session that I did. But basically, I've just layered this as the bottom and then done the exact same riff with these guys. But this layer is a third above. So without that, it sounds like this. So you can hear it's like a nice fat chunky bass thing, but it doesn't have heaps of timbre top end character to it. So that's what this is there for, and it creates a major third on the entire riff. And that's that. I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. The intro and breakdown here are the same because I literally made this arrangement and then duplicated it to create the entire song, and that's something I'll do very often. So you only really need to make half the song, and then the whole song is done because you can literally just copy it across. It's a copy and paste technique, obviously, and that's why I'll go in often and make tweaks to the second version or the first version so that there's something different between them and it's not literally exactly the same. Although I have done that in the past. In this intro, I have the main bass riff going off. With a nice automated low pass. So you can just hear it coming in more and more. And by the way, throughout here, I don't have the sub bass layer going at all. So that's something that I bring in on the actual drop and just creates a nice kind of bit of impact and contrast between the two sections. So there's no clear, big, strong low end, and then there really is when we get into the drop. So that's that. It's sounding muffled because of the automated filter. And yeah, in terms of the arrangement, it's literally just an intro for 16 bars. First part of the drop, 16 bars. Second part of the drop, 16 bars. And then that's already taken us to a minute and a half, roughly. Like, I've put a little bit extra in there, but it's nearly a minute and a half. So a minute and a half times 2, 3 minutes, and then we're already at a good kind of time for a normal song. It's a little shorter. Usually I would aim for 3.5 minutes on average, but this one's shorter, and that's completely fine. Yeah, so in terms of arranging a song, like, I think people find it more stressful than it needs to be. It's really just about coming up with a really simple idea of what kind of sections you want and following that idea. So that's how I'll go about it. I'll just say, oh yeah, let's go for an intro and let's make a drop, and then let's make the drop evolve somewhat, and then do that all again. Then we get a whole song. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you want to see in another video. Bye bye.